What happens when a man who once embodied Hollywood's strength and resilience faces the passage of time? At nearly 94, Clint Eastwood's story is one of unparalleled creativity, personal struggles, and a life lived on his own terms. From his rise as the iconic man with no name to his evolution as a legendary filmmaker, his journey reveals triumphs and complexities alike. How has Clint balanced his towering career with the weight of personal challenges? What lessons emerge from a life shaped by both glory and hardship? And what does the twilight of his remarkable life reveal about the man behind the legend? Stay tuned as we uncover the reality of Clint Eastwood's extraordinary journey. Clint Eastwood's story begins in an era defined by struggle and resilience, qualities that would shape his remarkable journey. Born on May 31, 1930 in San Francisco, Clint shocked the nurses at St. Francis Hospital with his hefty 11-pound frame, earning him the nickname Samson. His parents, Clinton Sr. and Ruth, had no idea that their son's life would one day become the stuff of legend. Yet his early years were far from glamorous. The Great Depression cast a long shadow over his childhood, forcing the Eastwood family into a life of constant motion, chasing stability wherever it might be found. The Eastwoods moved frequently throughout the 1930s, as Clinton Sr. struggled to keep steady work. Sales jobs came and went, as did his stint as a detective in San Francisco. Each move uprooted young Clint, leaving him with little time to settle into friendships or routines. By the time the family found a semblance of stability in the affluent neighborhood of Piedmont, California, it seemed like the hard times might finally be behind them. Their new home came with a swimming pool and even a country club membership, luxuries unheard of during those Depression years. But stability wasn't a cure-all, and Clint's struggles in school were a reminder that challenges weren't confined to finances. Academics were never Clint's strong suit, and by junior high, his report cards reflected a lack of engagement. Held back due to poor grades, he was forced to catch up through summer classes, an experience that left him restless and frustrated. This rebellious streak followed him into high school, where he became infamous for pranks that tested the patience of his teachers and administrators. One stunt involved scrawling an obscene message on the school scoreboard, while another included setting a flaming effigy on the school lawn. These antics earned him an unceremonious expulsion from Piedmont High. At Oakland Technical High School, Clint had a fresh start, but his disinterest in academics persisted. Teachers saw potential and encouraged him to participate in school plays, but Clint wasn't interested. Instead, he gravitated toward hobbies that allowed him to work with his hands or focus on solitary pursuits. Cars fascinated him, and he spent hours tinkering with engines. Tennis and golf became favorite pastimes, offering an outlet for his competitive nature. Most notably, Clint developed a love for music, pouring countless hours into perfecting his piano skills. He practiced so much that his fingers would sometimes bleed, a painful but telling testament to his quiet determination. As he reached the cusp of adulthood, Clint's future seemed uncertain. He lacked the traditional markers of academic or career ambition, and his path forward was anything but clear. Graduation from Oakland Tech remains a mystery to this day. Some claim he dropped out to chase a good time elsewhere. What is certain is that Clint's journey took an unexpected turn when his father relocated to Seattle in 1949. Clint, staying behind in Oakland with a friend, found himself navigating the realities of adulthood in a post-war America. Jobs were varied and often fleeting. He spent time working as a logger in Springfield, Oregon, where the physically demanding work suited his rugged disposition. A brief stint as a lifeguard followed, a job that would later prove more significant than he could have imagined. Clint also began playing ragtime piano at a local bar, an experience that blended his love of music with the kind of gritty reality that would later define many of his roles. Despite these odd jobs, Clint was searching for something more, though he didn't yet know what. Fate has a funny way of intervening when least expected. A casual invitation to a party in Malibu introduced Clint to film director Howard Hawks. Though the encounter didn't lead directly to a career breakthrough, it planted a seed. Hollywood was no longer a distant, unattainable dream. It was a possibility. But before he could explore that path, another twist awaited him. In 1951, Clint was drafted into the U.S. Army during the Korean War. His assignment as a swimming instructor at Fort Ord in California seemed relatively safe compared to the harrowing battlefields overseas. Still, even the safest roles come with their risks, as Clint would soon discover. While returning to base after visiting Seattle, he hitched a ride on a Douglas AD bomber. What began as a routine trip quickly turned into a nightmare. Severe weather battered the aircraft, and mechanical failures compounded the danger. The plane's back door flew open mid-flight, forcing client to jury-rig a temporary fix. Then, as if things weren't dire enough, the fuel supply ran out. The pilot had no choice but to ditch the plane in shark-infested waters off the California coast. Clint's training as a lifeguard suddenly became a matter of life and death. With no radio or oxygen systems, the situation was grim. The pilot and Clint managed to inflate rafts, but strong waves quickly overturned them, leaving Clint with no choice but to swim for shore. It's said that he swam 2 to 4 miles through treacherous waters, battling exhaustion, hallucinations, and the overwhelming odds stacked against him. Bioluminescent waves illuminated the water, creating an eerie, dreamlike atmosphere as he struggled to survive. When he finally stumbled ashore, soaking wet and disoriented, he found himself at an RCA radio station. Against all odds, both he and the pilot survived, but the experience left a lasting mark on Clint. It was a trial by fire, or water in this case, that tested his endurance and foreshadowed the grit and resilience that would define his career. As Clint returned to his post at Fort Ord, life seemed to settle into a quieter rhythm. Yet something had changed within him. The near-death experience didn't just shape his character, it gave him a perspective on survival that would later translate seamlessly to his film roles. Whether it was escaping Alcatraz or facing down villains in a dusty western town, Clint's on-screen presence carried the weight of someone who had truly been tested by life. By the time his military service ended, Clint Eastwood was ready for a new chapter. The party in Malibu and his brush with Hollywood had left an impression, and he began to wonder if a career in film might be within reach. Still, the road ahead was uncertain, and the challenges he faced so far were only the beginning. The years following Clint Eastwood's military service marked the beginning of an extraordinary journey. Returning to civilian life, Clint knew that his brush with death had changed him. There was a grit, a quiet determination, that now drove his choices. Yet, his path forward was far from clear. Like many young men of his time, Clint faced the uncertainty of post-war America, a period of recovery and reinvention. His first steps into adulthood were marked by odd jobs, fleeting opportunities, and a growing fascination with the idea of Hollywood. Settling in Oakland after his service, Clint found work wherever he could. Logging jobs in Oregon tested his physical endurance, while lifeguarding gave him moments of quiet reflection. At night, he played piano in local bars, his love for music offering solace amidst the grind of daily life. It was a humble existence, but Clint wasn't content to stay in one place for long. The chance meeting with director Howard Hawks at a Malibu party had ignited a spark, a realization that a different life might be possible. It was during these early years that Clint's rugged good looks and imposing stature began to turn heads. Friends and acquaintances encouraged him to consider acting, but Clint remained hesitant. Hollywood was a world apart from the blue-collar reality he had known, and breaking into it seemed impossible. That began to change in the early 1950s when a friend introduced him to a Universal International contract agent. Clint's striking appearance earned him a screen test, and though his acting skills were raw, the potential was undeniable. Universal signed Clint to a minor contract, offering him bit parts in films like Revenge of the Creature and Tarantula. While these roles were small, they gave Clint a foothold in the industry and a chance to observe the mechanics of filmmaking. He studied the craft intently, soaking up everything he could from directors, cinematographers, and fellow actors. Yet the studio system of the time didn't see Clint as leading man material. His contract was dropped after a year, leaving him at a crossroads once again. This rejection could have been the end of Clint's Hollywood aspirations, but he wasn't ready to give up. He took acting classes, worked on his craft, and began networking within the industry. It was during this period of struggle that Clint met a young woman named Maggie Johnson, whom he married in 1953. Their union provided a sense of stability, but Clint's restless nature made it clear that settling down wouldn't be easy. In 1958, a stroke of luck changed everything. Clint was cast in the television series Rawhide, a Western that would run for 8 seasons. As Rowdy Yates, Clint displayed the charisma and intensity that would later define his career. The show became a hit, and Clint's face was suddenly recognizable across America. But even as his star began to rise, Clint knew that television alone wouldn't satisfy him. He had his sights set on the silver screen. The transition from television to film is a tricky one, but Clint managed it with a combination of timing and sheer determination. In the early 1960s, he was cast in Sergio Leone's A Fistful of Dollars, a low-budget Western that would forever change the genre. Shot in Spain and Italy, the film introduced Clint as the man with no name, a silent, steely-eyed anti-hero whose moral ambiguity set him apart from the clean-cut cowboys of previous decades. The film was a massive success, and its sequels, for a few dollars more in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, cemented Clint's status as a global star. Clint's portrayal of the laconic gunslinger wasn't just a role, it was a reflection of his own reserved and self-reliant personality. Off-screen, he was known for being introspective, someone who chose his words carefully and rarely revealed more than necessary. This mystique only added to his appeal, making him one of the most enigmatic figures in Hollywood. By the late 1960s, Clint was no longer just an actor, he was a brand. His success in the spaghetti westerns opened doors to major studio productions, and he began to take greater control of his career. One of his first moves was to establish his own production company, Malpaso Productions, in 1967. Step in Spanish was a tongue-in-cheek nod to the risks Clint was taking by venturing into the business side of filmmaking. It was through Malpaso that Clint began to shape his legacy as a filmmaker. His directorial debut came in 1971 with Play Misty for Me, a psychological thriller that showcased his ability to craft tension and atmosphere. The film was a critical and commercial success, proving that Clint's talents extended beyond acting. He followed it up with a string of hits, including High Plains Drifter and The Outlaw Josie Wales, films that blended his love for the Western genre with his growing interest in exploring complex moral themes. But while Clint's career was thriving, his personal life was becoming increasingly complicated. His marriage to Maggie Johnson was under strain, largely due to Clint's infidelities. By this time, he had begun a long-term affair with actress Roxanne Tunis, with whom he fathered a daughter. This pattern of secret relationships and hidden children would continue throughout Clint's life, adding layers of complexity to his already multifaceted persona. As the 1970s progressed, Clint's career continued to evolve. He starred in films like Dirty Harry, which introduced audiences to Harry Callahan, a no-nonsense San Francisco cop who wasn't afraid to bend the rules. The character became an icon of 1970s cinema, embodying the era's fascination with anti-heroes and moral ambiguity. Clint's portrayal of Harry Callahan solidified his reputation as a leading man, but it also sparked controversy. Critics debated whether the character's vigilante tactics glorified violence, a question that would follow Clint throughout his career. Despite the controversy, Clint remained one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood. His films consistently performed well at the box office, and his ability to balance action-packed roles with more introspective projects made him a unique presence in the industry. As the 1970s came to a close, Clint was at the height of his powers, a figure who seemed untouchable both professionally and personally. But life has a way of catching up with even the most resilient among us. Clint's restless ambition and complicated relationships were beginning to take their toll, setting the stage for a decade of challenges and triumphs that would define the next chapter of his life. By the dawn of the 1980s, Clint Eastwood was a force to be reckoned with, both on and off the screen. He had proven his versatility as an actor, tackling roles that spanned from the dusty plains of the Wild West to the gritty streets of San Francisco. But as his career reached new heights, Clint's personal life and professional ambitions became more complex. The 1980s and 1990s were a time of great triumphs but also profound challenges that tested the limits of his resilience. Clint's foray into the 1980s was marked by his growing reputation as both an actor and a filmmaker. Having established Malpaso Productions in the late 1960s, Clint was now in full control of his creative destiny. Films like Bronco Billy and Honky Tonk Man showcased his ability to blend humor and heart, while Firefox and Sudden Impact offered audiences the high-stakes action they craved. The latter film gave birth to the now iconic catchphrase, "Go ahead, make my day," which cemented Harry Callahan's place in pop culture history. However, Clint wasn't content to rest on his laurels. He sought to expand his repertoire, taking on projects that allowed him to explore new genres and themes. Every Which Way But Loose and its sequel, Any Which Way You Can, saw Clint sharing the screen with an orangutan named Clyde in a series of comedic escapades that delighted audiences, even if critics were less enthused. These films proved that Clint had an uncanny ability to connect with viewers, whether he was wielding a six-shooter or delivering punchlines. Yet Clint's life wasn't all box office success and critical acclaim. While his career flourished, his personal life was becoming increasingly tumultuous. His marriage to Maggie Johnson, which had endured for nearly 3 decades, was on shaky ground. Clint's well-documented infidelities, including his long-term affair with actress Roxanne Tunis, had placed an unbearable strain on their relationship. The arrival of Sandra Locke, a rising star who shared the screen with Clint in The Outlaw Josie Wales and Bronco Billy, added another layer of complexity to his already convoluted personal life. Clint and Sandra's relationship quickly became the talk of Hollywood. Their chemistry on screen was undeniable, but their off-screen romance was anything but idyllic. Sandra later accused Clint of emotional manipulation and claimed he pressured her into making life-altering decisions, allegations that would resurface during their highly publicized breakup in the late 1980s. The fallout from their relationship was both personal and professional, with Sandra alleging that Clint had sabotaged her career. The lawsuits that followed painted a picture of a man whose private life often mirrored the dramatic conflicts of his films. Amidst this personal chaos, Clint faced professional challenges that tested his resolve. The filming of the Eiger Sanction in the Swiss Alps was marred by tragedy when a rockslide claimed the life of stuntman David Knowles. The incident deeply affected Clint, who felt responsible for the safety of everyone on set. While the film was ultimately completed, the loss weighed heavily on him and underscored the risks inherent in the pursuit of cinematic authenticity. Despite these setbacks, Clint continued to evolve as a filmmaker. The 1988 release of Bird, a biographical film about jazz legend Charlie Parker, marked a significant departure from his usual fare. The film, which Clint directed, was a deeply personal project that reflected his lifelong passion for music. Critics praised Bird for its sensitivity and authenticity, with many noting that Clint's direction demonstrated a level of depth and nuance that few had anticipated. As the 1990s began, Clint found himself at a crossroads. He was no longer the gunslinger of his youth, nor the rogue cop who defined a generation. Instead, he was an artist grappling with themes of mortality, redemption, and legacy. These themes came to the forefront in Unforgiven, a revisionist Western that Clint directed and starred in. Released in 1992, the film was a stark departure from the traditional Westerns that had made him famous. Clint's character, William Money, was a retired outlaw struggling with his violent past, a role that mirrored Clint's own reflections on his career and life. Unforgiven was a critical and commercial triumph, winning 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director for Clint. It was a career-defining moment that solidified his place as one of Hollywood's most respected filmmakers. Yet even as he stood at the pinnacle of his profession, Clint's personal life remained as complex as ever. During this time, Clint fathered several children with different women, a fact that only became widely known years later. His relationships with these children were varied, with some describing him as a loving father and others recounting feelings of neglect. Scott Eastwood, one of Clint's children from his relationship with Jocelyn Reeves, would later follow in his father's footsteps, pursuing a career in acting. Despite their complicated family dynamics, Scott has often credited Clint with instilling in him a strong work ethic and a love for storytelling. The 1990s also saw Clint exploring roles that reflected his age and experience. Films like In the Line of Fire and The Bridges of Madison County showcased his ability to portray vulnerability and introspection, qualities that resonated with audiences who had grown up watching him as a symbol of stoic masculinity. These roles marked a shift in Clint's career as he began to embrace characters that were not just heroes, but human beings with flaws and fears. By the end of the decade, Clint Eastwood had firmly established himself as a Hollywood legend. His body of work spanned genres, decades, and cultural moments, reflecting the evolution of both his career and the industry itself. But for all his accomplishments, Clint remained an enigma, a man whose public persona often obscured the complexities of his private life. As the 21st century loomed, Clint stood at the threshold of a new chapter. He was a filmmaker at the height of his powers, a father navigating the challenges of a sprawling family, and an artist unafraid to confront the passage of time. The next phase of his life would see him continuing to defy expectations, crafting stories that spoke not just to the audience, but to the man behind the legend. The turn of the millennium marked a new phase in Clint Eastwood's career, one defined by introspection, reinvention, and a level of artistic freedom that few in Hollywood ever achieve. No longer the rugged gunslinger or the rule-bending cop, Clint began crafting roles and directing films that reflected his age, wisdom, and evolving outlook on life. It was a period of profound creativity, but also one of personal challenges, as Clint grappled with the complexities of family, legacy, and his own mortality. In 2003, Clint directed Mystic River, a haunting exploration of guilt, trauma, and the ripple effects of violence. The film, starring Sean Penn and Tim Robbins, was both a critical and commercial success, earning 6 Academy Award nominations and winning 2. Mystic River marked a turning point for Clint as a director, cementing his reputation as a filmmaker who could delve into the deepest recesses of the human psyche. The acclaim for the film opened new doors for Clint, allowing him to pursue projects that were as personal as they were ambitious. The following year, Clint released $1 Million Baby, a poignant drama about an aging boxing trainer and his unlikely protege. The film was a masterclass in storytelling, blending themes of redemption, sacrifice, and the weight of difficult choices. Clint not only directed the film, but also played Frankie Dunn, a man grappling with his past failures and the possibility of a second chance. The role resonated deeply with audiences and critics alike, earning Clint 2 Academy Awards for Best Director and Best Picture. At 74, Clint was one of the oldest directors ever to win these honors, a testament to his enduring talent and relevance. Yet, even as he achieved new heights in his career, Clint's personal life remained as complex as ever. His marriage to Dina Ruiz, a former TV news anchor whom he had married in 1996, seemed to offer a sense of stability. The couple had a daughter, Morgan, and for a time it appeared that Clint had found a balance between his public and private lives. However, cracks began to emerge in their relationship, culminating in a highly publicized divorce in 2013. The separation marked yet another chapter in Clint's tumultuous romantic history, adding to the narrative of a man whose personal life often mirrored the conflicts of his on-screen characters. Clint's relationship with his children also continued to evolve during this time. While he remained close to some of his offspring, including his son Scott, others described a more distant connection. Despite these challenges, Clint made efforts to reconcile and strengthen his bonds, particularly as he grew older. His sprawling family with children from multiple relationships painted a picture of a man whose legacy extended far beyond the silver screen. In the late 2000s, Clint returned to acting in Gran Torino, a film that would become one of his most iconic performances. As Walt Kowalski, a grizzled Korean War veteran grappling with prejudice and change in his Detroit neighborhood, Clint delivered a performance that was both raw and deeply moving. The film's themes of redemption and unlikely friendships resonated with audiences, making it a surprise box office hit. For many, Gran Torino felt like a culmination of Clint's career, a character who embodied the rugged individualism and quiet introspection that had defined his roles for decades. While Gran Torino was initially thought to be Clint's swan song as an actor, he surprised audiences by returning to the screen in The Mule in 2018. The film, based on a true story, followed an elderly horticulturist who became a drug mule for a Mexican cartel. Clint's portrayal of Earl Stone was a reminder of his ability to inhabit complex, morally ambiguous characters, even in his late 80s. The film was another critical and commercial success, further solidifying Clint's reputation as a storyteller unafraid to tackle unconventional narratives. As Clint entered his 90s, his focus shifted more toward directing. Films like American Sniper and Sully showcased his ability to handle large-scale, emotionally charged stories. American Sniper, based on the life of Navy SEAL Chris Kyle, became one of the highest-grossing films of Clint's career, while Sully, a biographical drama about pilot Chesley "Sully" Sullenberger, earned widespread acclaim for its subtle and humanistic storytelling. These projects highlighted Clint's versatility as a director, proving that even in his later years, he could capture the zeitgeist with unparalleled skill. Yet despite his continued professional success, concerns about Clint's health began to surface. By the late 2010s, Clint was making fewer public appearances, and his once robust physique showed signs of age. Speculation about his well-being grew, particularly after he skipped several high-profile events, including the 2023 AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, a golf tournament he had attended for decades. His absence sparked rumors about his declining health, though Clint himself remained characteristically private about his condition. In 2022, Clint re-emerged at a conservation event hosted by Jane Goodall in Carmel by the Sea, near his home. The sight of the 93-year-old legend smiling and chatting with attendees put many of the health rumors to rest. However, the brief appearance also underscored the realities of aging, as Clint seemed more frail than in previous years. Despite these challenges, he continued to work, directing Juror Number 2, a courtroom drama that once again showcased his dedication to the craft. Clint's personal life in his later years has been notably quieter. Since his divorce from Dina Ruiz, he has kept his relationships out of the spotlight, focusing instead on his work and family. His connection with his children, particularly Scott and Francesca, remains strong, with both often speaking fondly of their father's influence and legacy. Clint's disciplined lifestyle, marked by a low-fat, high-protein diet and a commitment to staying active, has undoubtedly contributed to his longevity, even as the weight of his years becomes increasingly apparent. For many, Clint Eastwood's life in his 90s is a study in contrasts. On one hand, he is a living legend, a man whose contributions to cinema have left an indelible mark on Hollywood and beyond. On the other, he is a private individual, navigating the complexities of aging with the same quiet determination that has defined his career. As he approaches the twilight of his life, Clint Eastwood remains, as ever, an icon of resilience, creativity, and unwavering resolve. As Clint Eastwood enters his 94th year, his life stands as a testament to resilience, reinvention, and the enduring power of storytelling. Yet, beneath the accolades and achievements lies a quieter, more reflective existence. The world around Clint has changed dramatically since his rise to stardom, and so too has the man himself. Aging, while inevitable, has transformed him in ways both visible and unseen, leaving fans to wonder how the iconic actor and filmmaker spends his twilight years. Clint's home base is Carmel by the Sea, a picturesque coastal town in California where he has lived for decades. The decision to settle in Carmel wasn't random. It was rooted in his love for the area's natural beauty and small-town charm. Over the years, Clint became a vital part of the community, even serving as its mayor in the 1980s. Today, his life in Carmel is quiet and largely private, a stark contrast to the fast-paced, high-profile existence he once led in Hollywood. Despite his reclusive lifestyle, Clint remains active in his own way. His love for golf, a sport he has enjoyed since his younger years, persists, though he plays less frequently now. The AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am tournament held near his home has been a staple in his calendar, though his absence from recent events has fueled speculation about his health. For Clint, these outings are less about competition and more about connection, whether with the game, the people, or the serene beauty of the course. Health, of course, is a growing concern as Clint approaches 94. Known for his disciplined approach to fitness and nutrition, Clint has long adhered to a low-fat, high-protein diet, avoiding processed foods and sugary treats. This lifestyle, combined with his active habits, has undoubtedly contributed to his longevity. However, even the most disciplined routines cannot completely stave off the effects of time. Clint's public appearances have become increasingly rare, and when he does step out, his frailty is evident. Yet his sharp wit and unyielding determination remain intact, traits that continue to define him even in his later years. Professionally, Clint's passion for filmmaking shows no signs of waning. His latest project, Juror Number 2, is a courtroom drama that has drawn considerable interest, not just for its subject matter, but for the fact that Clint is still working at an age when most would have long retired. The film is a reminder of his commitment to storytelling and his refusal to let age define his capabilities. On set, Clint is said to maintain the same level of focus and intensity that has characterized his work for decades, proving that while his body may have slowed, his creative mind remains as sharp as ever. Beyond his professional endeavors, Clint's personal life is a source of both solace and complexity. His sprawling family with children from multiple relationships reflects a life lived on his own terms. Relationships with his children have varied over the years, with some closer than others, but in recent years, there has been a noticeable effort to strengthen those bonds. Scott Eastwood, who has carved out his own acting career, frequently speaks about his admiration for his father, crediting Clint with instilling discipline and a deep appreciation for storytelling. Francesca and Morgan Eastwood, two of Clint's younger children, have also maintained close ties with their father, often appearing with him at public events. These connections underscore a softer, more familial side of Clint that contrasts with his tough, stoic public image. Yet, There are also those in his family who have had more distant relationships with him, a testament to the complexities of his personal life. As Clint spends more time out of the public eye, his legacy looms larger than ever. For fans, he is not just an actor or a director, but a symbol of resilience, independence, and unyielding creativity. Films like Unforgiven, Gran Torino, and Million Dollar Baby remain touchstones for audiences, embodying the themes of redemption, morality, and human connection that have defined Clint's career. His influence extends beyond cinema, touching the realms of politics, music, and even local governance, thanks to his time as Carmel's mayor. However, there is an undeniable sadness that comes with watching a figure like Clint Eastwood age. For a man whose image was once synonymous with strength and vitality, the physical realities of aging can feel jarring, even for his most devoted fans. Clint himself has always approached aging with a pragmatic mindset, often reflecting on it in his films. Characters like Frankie Dunn in Million Dollar Baby or Earl Stone in The Mule mirror his own journey, grappling with the inevitability of time while finding meaning in the present. In interviews, Clint has occasionally shared his thoughts on mortality, often with a characteristic blend of humor and candor. "Don't let the old man in," he once said when asked about his approach to aging, a phrase that has since become a mantra for many of his admirers. It's a sentiment that encapsulates Clint's philosophy: to keep moving forward, to stay curious, and to never stop creating. As he approaches 94, Clint Eastwood remains a figure of intrigue and admiration. His films continue to inspire new generations. His contributions to cinema are celebrated worldwide, and his life serves as a reminder that even legends are human. While his days of gunslinging cowboys and rule-bending cops may be behind him, Clint's legacy is far from over. Whether through his work, his family, or the indelible mark he has left on popular culture, Clint Eastwood will forever be remembered as more than just a Hollywood icon. He will be remembered as a man who lived life on his own terms with all its triumphs and imperfections. With that, we have reached the end of today's video. If you have come that far with us, be sure to check out other videos on the channel.